the brand new Polini cylinder. Oh no, no! All right, boys, we have the OG Blue Bertha Zuma out today because we're gonna be rebuilding the motor on this thing. So today we have the brand new Polini cylinder kit, and this thing is supposed to be really, really good. So if you haven't seen it yet, you will see here very, very shortly, but a lot of improvements from the last Polini Corsa on this, with even a casted manifold. And there's a ton of more porting on this cylinder. It's supposed to be making 14 horsepower. So we'll crack this thing open here in a little bit and show you guys what it's really looking like. But I'm very stoked to be replacing the cylinder on this for one, and also upgrading and seeing the true power of this brand new cylinder. So I haven't seen anybody personally actually put this cylinder to the test. Right when I saw him go for sale, I knew we needed to grab one and try it out. This is already a Polini Corsa 10mm on here, and this one is ported. In general, this bike has now had a ton of miles on it, and we've taken this on 3 ferry-to-ferry trips and many, many other ride outs. This top end alone has a few thousand miles on it now, so I think it's very overdue to open this thing up, and better yet, replace it with a better cylinder. So, but I am going to go film with the Dragy right now and the GoPro some test clips, because when I throw this on, I want to keep the exact same tune setup with the CVT and everything, and just swap the cylinder and compare with the new one and see if there is a power improvement. The only thing I'm worried about is that I don't believe we're going to be able to run our V-Force reeds in this one too. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in a little bit. But let's go film some clips on that and get this thing cracked open.
MOPBOYZ. When that two-stroke pop, tell me who want to smoke with us. 12 o'clock on your block, this Zuma scraping, it won't stop. Make these 70s rip, this caster smell like piss. In that balance point can't miss. Get behind me, throttle up and dip. Scooter so damn wet, came out water like a fish. Malosi and Polini, stay up on me, bitch, I'm dipped. Ping, 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 ping. This scooter go, this scooter go,
All right, we just did a little ride on this thing to get a base on where the regular Polini Corsa is sitting. I'll show those clips once we get this one thrown on so we could see an exact comparison from old versus new. Even the casting on their logo here is a little better. In general, like going right off looks and what I see right out of the box, huge improvements here on this Polini cylinder. As you saw in the other clips when I was unboxing this, there is many new ports on the intake itself. You can see down here, way more additional ports way in there. Probably one of the coolest things I've noticed, besides all these aggressive intake ports and everything that's going on here, is the fact that it's no longer a flat surface with an O-ring style head. So usually there's an engrave. I'll show you when I take off the other cylinder, but there's usually an engrave right here where an O-ring sits. This one actually locks into each other. So super nice upgrade here on this Polini cylinder. So let's get this one, panels taken off, motor dropped out, onto the workbench and strip it down. It's time to get to work and strip down this Yamaha Zuma, at least to the point where it's easier for us to access all the main components to get this motor pulled out. So we stripped off the exhaust, stripping off the back wheel, and of course undoing all the wiring and everything that follows to be able to throw this thing on the workbench. And now you can see here is our trusty old blue Yamaha Zuma engine. This has a ported Polini Corsa in it with the stage 6 big valve intake and a V-Force style reed from Top Performance. Here we have the new Polini Corsa sitting next to it, and it's time to strip this thing down. We're taking the cylinder off, we got our intake off, and right away realized obviously reed cages do not match. We are unable to use our V-Force style reed, so we're stuck using the ones that came with the Polini, the new cylinder. That's fine, it doesn't matter. Here we are finally opening up this cylinder after many miles, and honestly, not too bad. There's definitely some buildup on the top of this piston, but cylinder itself looks amazing. There's no scoring in here. Everything looks as it should, and if not, even better than I expected. Comparing side by side, right off the rip, you can notice a huge difference in the intake setup on this. So let's get this piston off so we can look more at our brand new cylinder setup. A few things to look at right off the bat is these studs are usually exposed through these two fins here. So you can see right there, you see it in the crack? See the crack? That's the stud. See that stud? In there, it's solid sealed in between the fins now with casting. Besides just noticing that right off the bat, look at the difference in how these intakes are set up. That is a huge difference. So this one usually has an extended style intake. This one has a full intake built in, one-piece casting. This is the typical intakes we run on our bikes. You got a seal here with bolts, a seal here, and then on the other side of the reed, and then to this intake. So then another one that goes to your actual carb. So this would usually go like this, and then you have your reeds way up here with this big angle intake. So you can see how the air kind of gets funneled through there, and how this one sits, and how the air goes kind of directly into there. So now your reeds are going to be sitting right here, and they already have 4-pedal reeds like that, and it's going to be sitting right into there like that. So we're not able to use our reed cage like I thought. Over here we have a V4 style reed, carbon reeds in there. You can see it's actually an 8-pedal reed cage with the V4 style. And then this is how we're looking now. So I prefer V-Force over these typically, but this is how Polini has it set up, so we're going to go with that. This skirt right here on the bottom of the cylinder is a lot longer on the old one compared to how much higher up this skirt is right here on the brand new Polini Corsa. So everything else kind of looks the same though. You still have the cooling fin right here below the exhaust and everything. Cooling fins wise kind of looks the same. They were able to almost add an extra fin in there in the middle. They actually did. So we have 6 on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fins on this one here. So somehow they were able to squeeze an additional cooling fin in there. And then, most importantly, oh wow, you can almost see, wow, look at that right there. This cylinder itself is actually shorter, but it has an additional cooling fin. The skirts on these ones are really, really long. That's kind of interesting. It almost looks like the decks are a tiny bit different. You can see here that the bottom of the cylinder is sitting lower on this one anyway, so it kind of compensates. Very interesting. This is a flat surface on the top of the cylinder on the old one, and it had an O-ring in the head like I mentioned there. Now this one actually has a recessed area that this is going to be sitting perfectly flush into, and kind of like locks in there. So now that's like locked in. That's kind of a big difference there. Even though the studs hold it in place, it's just kind of cool that it's like recessed down in there. I feel like that's going to create a way better seal. So like I mentioned, this one was roughly eye-ported, if you will, from someone previously. In there, it's very, very hard. I'm trying to get a good way to light it up. But this is our intake port right here on this side. Was this little boost port, if you will, that goes up here, and then a bottom port coming straight shot out of the bottom of the intake into the bottom of the cylinder down there. We got 4 intake ports with additional porting right there on the side, a lot wider porting right here than the stock one. So there is a lot of more porting going on here on this Polini cylinder. Yeah, these are massive compared to the one single big one. Bridge ported. This should be pretty gnarly. Even the ports up here on the top. And then on the sides, way in here, you can't even probably see it. Taking a look at this crank, and there is a lot of side-by-side play. There is a ton of side-to-side play. And although side-to-side play is normal on cranks, what you don't want is up and down play. This seems a little excessive. I can literally hear it kind of like clacking off. That's why this motor is so noisy in the bottom end. Oh man. Alright, we're going to send it still. But that bottom end definitely looks like this thing might need some TLC here soon. One more thing to note is with this new design and having the intake cast it into the cylinder, you now get with the cylinder kit just this 360 intake right here. And typically you're going to have to buy a Polini Corsa alone is $280, and then you got to get an intake. The intakes are $150. That's $430. So now, which I'm about to get a lot of hate for because I've been calling this a Corsa this whole video. This is called the Polini Evolution cylinder. I thought it was called the Corsa still. The Polini Evolution. These run $360 and basically about $80 cheaper than having to buy an intake and everything. And supposedly these are a lot better. So slap this thing on now and get it sealed up so we can air leak down test it and then get to riding it tomorrow. So it is time to start throwing this motor together. So we cracked open a fresh bottle of some Klotz assembly lube, and we also double checked that our cylinder was clearing everything on our cases, because in this Polini handbook it mentioned that you might need to make clearance on the cylinder for the cases. Maybe that's just for the booster one. I couldn't find anywhere that needed that. So we continued on. We have our gasket kit here We have our wrist pin and our piston clips here, and we have a brand new wrist pin bearing. This kit didn't come with a wrist pin bearing. It's usually only cranks that do, but I had one brand new laying around, so we're throwing it in anyways. We lubed up all our parts with some cloth oil, got the piston clip thrown in on one side, and lubed everything up yet again. Threw the piston rings on, and we were able to slide this over our crank rod and get everything lined up. Now, I always stuff a bunch of paper towels down in my crankcase when I'm doing this because this final piston clip can get dangerous, and if you drop that piston clip down into your cases, you are going to have a bad day. Alright, so I just cracked open the gasket kit here and I realized there's two base gaskets. Now this is different from typical Polini cylinders as they're usually slap on right out of the box. Given this is an Evo cylinder, I'm going to check the squish. I already put the piston rings on, which I don't usually do when I check squish. So now I'm going to have to lube up the cylinder when we slide it on. We're going to tape some solder right here on our piston, and we're going to check the squish on this thing real quick. So if you want to learn more on how to measure squish, I have a second YouTube channel where I have a full video explaining how to do squish. I will link that up here in the top right of this video. You can click on that and watch that full video. But basically what we are doing here is taking solder, putting it at the top of the piston, and then letting it smash against the head of the cylinder when we rotate the engine. So then we can take the solder out and measure the clearance between the top of the piston and the top of the head inside of the engine. Now, there was a little issue that we ran into here when we double stacked our base gaskets, and I'll explain that right now. This washer that's in here, this gasket, is really thick. Now, I thought it was like a spark plug and was going to be a crush washer. Kind of crush more. That does not seem to be the case right now. No, I'm not too sure on why this isn't sitting flush. That's beyond me. That gasket's in there. It still sits flush on the inside, but the outside, you can see right there, that little space, that's with the crush washer one in there. Now, if you take that one out, which is pretty thick, set that aside, that deck sits flat. But when I have that crush washer in there, the squish is so high that it won't even measure on my solder. Like, we haven't even crushed the solder yet. It hasn't even touched the solder yet. And they do recommend 1 millimeter on their paper over there for their spec sheet. So, alright, I took this gasket out, put the head on, and did the squish without this gasket. And we finally got some squish. This alone is 0.5 millimeters. Granted, it's going to crush, but like barely. 0.8 on the squish. So 0.8 plus 0.5. We're looking at a 1.3 squish right now. So if we remove 0.3 on one of those gaskets, we'd be sitting at a 1 millimeter squish, and that's exactly Polini recommends right here. When they have everything set up right here, it says squish 1 plus or minus 0.1 millimeters, so give or take. So 1.1 squish or 0.9 squish. Preferably, I would love a 0.9, but with the setup of this cylinder right now, very interesting to see that thick gasket up there up top. So, looks like this one's a little thicker, this one's a little thinner. The thick one is 0.3. Thin one is 0.2. So we will be removing 0.3, perfectly what added up actually. So to get that exactly 1 millimeter squish right here, I will be running the 0.2 one. Now if I got rid of the 0.2 one and ran the 0.3, I could also still be on Polini's recommendation where I'd be at 1.1 millimeter on the squish. But we'll go with this one. We'll be at a 1 millimeter flat, kind of high squish in my opinion. And all the stage 6 stuff that we've done kind of recently, we've always been doing 0.7, 0.8 on the squish. So obviously Polini cylinders and the cast iron more for longevity, and with a squish like that, that's definitely some longevity of this motor. But probably lacking a tiny bit of power with a higher squish like that. It's all give and take. Well, we're going to continue with slapping this motor together, so we grab some cloths cleaner here, and we're prepping our cases here so we can have some sealant and make sure there's no residue or anything that's going to leave a film when we go to put down some Honda Bond right there. So we lubed up our cylinder yet again to get everything finalized and ready for full assembly, because we don't want any dry components when we go to first fire up this engine. So we slid down this beautiful Polini Evolution cylinder right onto our fresh piston, our fresh rings, and everything of the sorts, hoping that this 1mm squish that we did end up with is still going to leave us some room for some power. I don't see why it wouldn't. I haven't really paid attention to squish normal on Polini motors, but given off the motors we've been building with the aluminum cylinders, we usually go for a pretty lower squish, like a 0.7. As I assembled the motor right here, I noticed there was a little bit of that gap still in the head, but I believe it's supposed to be like that. I even reached out to Brandon at Screw Swap Shop, and he said that Polini did it so you can get cooling to more of the internal side of the cylinder, and that's the whole point of having that internal seal with that crush ring. I guess that's just how it is, boys, but we'll see if it all seals up with our air leak down test and see if we're good to go ripping. We have our air leak down test on there now. It is the next day. Everything's sealed off, and she's holding a little bit over 6 psi now. About 6.5 psi. It's been about probably 15 minutes, so let that sit for a few more minutes and make sure. Looking good though on the first seal up. It's looking promising, boys. So I think it's going to be time to throw this motor back in the bike and get our first fire up on our new Polini Evo cylinder. Also, I have to mention that after our engine giveaway, which has been shipped out and sent off to the giveaway winner. If you haven't seen that, I've been posting that on Instagram, but we got the giveaway engine shipped out, sent off to the guy, and it actually arrives there tomorrow. So I shut down the website after the giveaway just to make sure that everything for the giveaway was accounted for. Website is now back open, and now you can grab the MOPBOYZ merch again if you want to support the website, the hats, t-shirts, and all that. But most importantly, with this brand new cylinder that we are trying out today, this is going to be available on MOPBOYZ.com. If you wanted to grab a new cylinder for your pre-bug and you wanted to try this after seeing this video, you can actually grab this on MOPBOYZ.com now. So a lot of the parts that we're going to be showing along in the videos and how to install them and the performance of them, if they're worthy enough, will be on my website and all the parts that I use personally. We're not going to just sell everything. It's going to be mostly the things that I use on my bikes or in my videos. But you can go down to the description right now and grab yourself one of these cylinders and possibly grab yourself a t-shirt while you're at it from the website. I went ahead and tossed the motor back into the frame of our Yamaha Zuma, and it's sitting in there very nice and pretty with our new Polini setup. I really didn't move too much around when we pulled the motor out of here, so it's going to be very easy to hook everything back up, kind of just plug everything back in, plug the carb back in, run a couple plugs to the back, hook up a brake line, couple fuel line things, a new spark plug, and that's pretty much all we got to do. Polini torsion arm on this side, exhaust, and we're also going to oil up the exhaust because it's kind of dry and rusted, so I cleaned it here and then sprayed it with some WD-40, wiped it down, hopefully prevent some rust here in the future, and hoping to keep that pipe looking fresh and clean. Now with everything else assembled, it is time to get some premix going. So we open up the pantry, grab some clots, super Technoplate, and we're going to make some premix because we're going to fill this tank up and get this thing broken in. We're hoping to do a whole tank ride pretty much to break this cylinder in before we go ripping on it too dang hard. We'll fill her up with some fresh clots premix here for our fresh build. And everything should be good to go now. We have all the grounds hooked up, all the wiring, brakes hooked up, all the fuel lines. I can't think of a single thing that's going to go wrong. Filling it all the way up because we got to do a little break-in on this engine too, so we'll probably run through a full tank of gas. Some good old clots premix. Turn that petcock on. Let's get her full of some fuel. All right, boys. It is time to fire up the brand new Polini Evolution cylinder. Now, it is going to be smoky. We got a lot of assembly lube in there. Let's see what's going on with this new cylinder. Give it a couple slow kickovers. Oh, she wants to fire. All right, here we go. A little low on the idle, but that's okay. sitting about 150 degrees. That'll do it for the first one. We'll let her cool back down and then we'll do it again. All right, second little fire up. Let her get warm again. Not too much noise from the bottom end. I thought that crank was gonna be a little clankier. That thing had a lot of wiggle in it side to side, but side to side play is kind of normal in cranks. This one has had a little bit more than I would like to see. Up and down is what you do not want to see on a crank play. Boys, it is time for us to go try out the Polini Evolution vertical cylinder. We're gonna go super easy right now. This is the break-in ride. Now I'm probably gonna wear through about a full tank of gas, probably around 30-40 miles. And then we'll come back, retune the carb if we need to, which I don't really know if we're gonna need to. Maybe more fuel with all the new ports that are on this cylinder compared to the last Corsa. And then I'm just excited to rip on this thing, man. We need to get this break-in done. So it's funny, people don't think I break in the motors because they're watching a YouTube video. It's like, why would I show you an hour of me driving around, barely even ripping on it, not even wheeling, let alone not even ripping on it, just me sitting here. Do you want to watch that for 45 minutes?
MOPBOYZ. MOPBOYZ. When that two-stroke pop, tell me who want to smoke with us. 12 o'clock on your block, this zuma scraping and won't stop. Make these 70s rip, this caster smell like pit.
Our current tune setup is definitely a little bit different than what this cylinder likes. But I'm gonna be honest, I kind of want to put a C16 exhaust on this. I think that seeing right off the bat right now, oh, I'm sorry. Seeing right off the bat right now how revvy this cylinder feels, I don't think a Yasuni R is gonna cut it for the amount of rev this cylinder wants. So I think we're gonna have to get a C16. That's kind of what I was thinking. Just like the MK2 stage 6 cylinders. A C16, man. That's the real recipe. I can't resist, boys. Oh. We got like 20 miles in on her already. Let her cool down a little bit again. And then we'll go ride it again. Alright boys, I gotta send it now. We're like 30 miles into this break-in. I'm ready. The tune is off. It wants more rev. But where do we run out of gear and what's our mile per hour now, huh? Well, it looks like we open up and we're already 56. We're not even at 11K RPM yet. 56 miles per hour now. We don't have enough rev in this bike. We need more rev. That bottom end's a little soggy though. But then it picks up around 45. You can hear it kind of change. And she really starts pulling. We got a lot of CVT work to do. Right off the rip with our tune setup, we gained a few miles per hour. Nothing crazy though. So let's get back, throw the Dragy on,
get a set base on just the swap of the cylinder difference, and then let's tune this cylinder up a little bit. But I definitely want a better pipe now. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely power now, because when it hits that like 45 mile per hour mark, when you hear it open up, you can pull it right into a wheelie now. It used to kind of struggle at that 45 a little bit. Now it's like 45, 48, not even on the gas. Thanks, man.
So here's the plug after the first rip. Some may say lean, some may say perfect. I would probably say it's a little bit more on a little bit of the perfect side. There's a little cocoa brown in there, a little black. That's almost ideal. That is almost perfect on the carb tuning. So with that being said, throw that plug back in. We got the Dragy on. Let's go get a base and then come back and tune the CVT.
Definitely has some more power off the line. That front end stood up for a second. Definitely a little bit. I think we're just out of gear in general on the mile per hour. So it's a matter of where the power is. But we need to change our roller setup to get the potential of this cylinder. If you watch mostly on the pre-bug builds I've been doing lately, we have been doing an up gear. So I found this kind of interesting because this is the run we did earlier on our Corsa setup that we had previously on the bike, and we're still kind of maxing out the gearing on this setup as well. But as you notice, we're hitting a 22 seconds in the quarter mile at 52 miles per hour, and I went ahead and did it again on a straight road just to make sure that was accurate, because the last road kind of was a little curvy, and bam, we're sitting almost exactly the same in the quarter mile. It's barely off a couple tenths of a second, but almost mile per hour is within the same half of a mile per hour, and the second about the same. Now we're looking at the Evo cylinder, and you notice right away that from the 60 foot to the 8th mile to the 1,000 foot to the quarter mile, everything is 1 second less with a little bit more on the mile per hour, and that's straight out of the box. Alright, so when we just rode it, the variator setup was 6 grams and 7 grams, equaling basically 6.5 for all of them. I'm going to go ahead and lower it to 6 grams for all of them right now. Try that out, and I'm also going to put in a fresh contra spring just because this is from 200 miles plus ago, so we'll just throw a fresh contra spring in it. With this yellow one right here. Got some springs up there, hit it with the yellow boy, throw a fresh one in it and see what she does. Alright, we're losing daylight. Let's go try this thing out again. We just lightened it, changed the contra, and she should be pretty spicy now. Our temps are super good. The temps right now are really, really good. Yeah, I think the mile per hour is going to be the same. No matter what, we're out of gearing for a stock Zuma. Like, we need to up gear this thing bad. The last few builds we did up gears in C16s, and we saw a lot more potential. Alright, that's as long as I'm willing to hold it wide open. Alright, so that was our second run after a little bit of tuning on the CVT, and our mile per hour actually went up even with the lighter rollers, but we're actually still looking almost at the exact same on those two runs. And then if you look back at the Corsa, it was exactly a second less on every single category again. Now, I don't know if this was completely worth just gaining 1 mile per hour and 1 second less all the way across the board straight out of the box, but I do think there is a ton more potential with this cylinder, given that we had our Polini Corsa basically maxed out with all the add-ons with the carbon V-Force Re and the porting, when this cylinder is just straight out of the box. That just shows that we have a lot of potential still on the table with this cylinder. Now we're cruising 50. 55, no problem now. But you can hear it. The cylinder wants more rev. The gearing in the bike does not. We need to up gear this thing, boys. Let's go ahead and order ourselves an up gear, probably a C16 exhaust as well, because I want to see some true power out of this thing. I think we're missing out on a ton of power in this cylinder. Oh man. It is pretty impressive.
All right, boys, it is time for my conclusion of the new Polini Evo cylinder. So, given that I talked about I had V-Force 8 pedal reeds and a ported Corsa in my bike previously, I think for the price range, this thing makes sense because of the intake that's set up on there already, and you're pretty much having a cheap cylinder when you minus $150 for the intake. This is basically like a $250, $220 cylinder at that point when you minus the cost of an intake, and a very, very reliable cylinder. That's the part that I must say right there. If you watched a lot of the builds recently we've done on the channel with the pre-bug Zumas, specifically we've done the Stage 6 MK2 cylinder. Now that is a nice cylinder, it is dual ring, it is a little bit more reliable than a single ring aluminum, but it is still a very high revving aluminum cylinder, and it's not just a straight up bolt-on cylinder. You're going to want to do some case matching where you actually grind away part of your cases to match the cylinder flow, which this cylinder you didn't have to do. It does a lot better with the high temps and everything that happens when you're going on long rides and you're beating the absolute crap out of these bikes right here. This is a very, very durable performance cylinder. So I must say that before I even say anything else. I think Corsa is out of the question nowadays. This is definitely over a Corsa. I'd say the best part of it, more than the performance, is the upgrades that the cylinder itself has. The new style recessed deck lid for the top of the head sitting into the cylinder with the crush style washer like that. Excellent. I love the intake setup. Now those two things right there are what stand out the most to me and what make this cylinder what it truly is and makes it worth it in my head. How do I think if you were choosing a cylinder, this is the #1 option you should go with? I think that is where the fence is drawn. I think that depends on you and what you look at in riding. If you're looking to build a motor that you know is always going to be there, easy to tune, and you can pretty much hop on whenever and beat the absolute crap out of, that's when I would say this cylinder is 100,000% the cylinder you're going to go with. If you're going to go with any cast iron cylinder, this is the #1 right now in the market. Be able to beat the crap out of it and pretty much tune it straight out of the box. Stock jetting on a CP21 is almost exactly perfect for this cylinder, and then just slap a Yasuni R on it or a Yasuni C16. 6-gram rollers, very basic setup in the roller setup here. Medium spring, regular belt, easy as can be to get reliable, simple power out of your bike. And now if you're looking for cylinders right now and you're looking for top performance, I don't believe this cylinder is the one for you. I think that you can get a lot more power if you went with the Stage 6 MK2 aluminum one, but just know that there is a lot of things that follow with that, including some more tuning, some porting to your cases, and definitely a better pipe than a Yasuni R. This pipe will work for this setup, but I personally want to keep trying this cylinder and get the maximum power that we can get out of this cylinder, because I truly think there's way more power potential than with the setup we have right now. I think we have completely ran out of the gearing in our bikes, especially after the last few pre-bugs I built, and I found the sweet spot for that gearing that I really like for these bikes, where it keeps it very fun in the bottom end, but you still get to that 65 mile/hour range, and that's where I want to see with this bike, with this cylinder. So we're going to order some parts and get this thing super dialed in the next video, and we will really see where this cylinder stands when we get the true potential out of this motor with an up gear and a better pipe. So that's going to do it for this one, boys. Make sure you check out the website if you do want to grab some merch and support the channel, or if you want to grab this cylinder yourself, because there's some parts on the website now. So make sure you check that out on MOPBOYZ.com, and I'll see you guys in the next video.